Hello and welcome to the Pawn Pro podcast. Today we have Beth Anandi joining us. Hi Beth, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay. All right, so my favorite question to start this thing off is how in the heck did you get in the pawn industry?
Well, we are first generation pawnbrokers. Our children get to be second generation if they so choose. But we actually started from scratch in 2011. But prior to that, Adam was a mortgage broker. And in 2008, 2009, everybody in the pawn world at that time knew what was going on with gold. We had no idea. And Adam was at a point where he was like, the marketing that I'm doing, not marketing, the mortgage broking that I'm doing right now is not really working the way I want it to any longer. And so he started looking for other things. And I was teaching at the college level at the time, humanities. And he said, what do you think about this idea, that idea, the other idea? And I kept saying, no, you're not going to get involved in that. I was happy teaching. I loved it. I still love it. And he finally said, what do you think about pawnbroking? And I said, tell me more about that. I'd never been in a pawn shop. Didn't know how cool they were. So once he talked to me a little bit about that, we started looking for a place. And it's really, really hard to find a place that somebody is excited about leasing to a pawnbroker. So it took us over a year to find a place, and we found a great person to lease from who we ended up finally buying the building from. And he had a lot of faith in us, and we were really grateful for him.
That's amazing. What is it like getting your pawn license in Oregon?
It's pretty simple to get your pawn license in Oregon. I would say the biggest holdup in Oregon is probably accessing financing and finding a place to actually set down roots.
So has accessing financing changed since you got into the business, and what's your advice for like figuring that out?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give, which I hear a lot of other people say as well, is make sure that you are friends with your banker and make sure that you seek out those banks that are small, community driven, banks that really enjoy a relationship with you versus big banks. We have a great small bank that actually does big business here in our local area, and we were really blessed to find them, and they literally work on a handshake. Adam asked us several months ago now, hey, what is my credit score? And they said, we don't pull credit. We do everything on a handshake, and we look at your business, and we just want to be part of what you do. And that's the kind of banking relationship that you have to find, and you have to seek it out. It's hard to find, so just keep asking and keep connecting with bankers.
That's super helpful. Okay, so immediate challenges were finding a place that you could get a spot and establishing banking relationships. What kind of challenges do you guys face now?
I think similarly we face, just because there's a little bit of fear around the banking industry, just not knowing what's coming, and with Operation Choke Point prior and having experienced some things in our personal life where we own a pawn shop and they decided we're not going to finance you for your personal stuff, which was interesting. We find that it's maybe not a challenge, but we have lots of different banks that we use and lots of different ways that we bank. So we're always kind of pushing that envelope, trying to find different banks as well as the one that we love that works with us. But we have lots of different bank accounts, so I highly recommend that you
Diversify.
Diversify, yes. That's probably still one of our challenges. And then the other one, finding space is pretty easy now, partly because when Adam and I came onto the scene, we said we don't want to do this the way that we've seen it done here. We want to do it differently. And so a lot of people are now familiar with what we do, and so we haven't had that issue since then, probably in the last 6 years since we started expanding. And so we're really blessed by that. Probably one of the biggest challenges currently is, I think, just like everybody else, but hiring good, effective, quality, smart, fun, entertaining, energetic people who truly want to make the pawn business their world.
Totally. I can attest. I was in Oregon. I drove by one of your stores. I went to the store the outsides are beautiful of them, but the inside was like, there was like this separate kind of luxury room where I bought like a wallet and I forget what else, a keychain. And then, it was just like, I think it was your son that ended up helping me. And the store was so beautiful. It really like, I think is set apart from a lot of pawn shops that I end up walking into.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate that. When Adam broached the idea with me, I was like, I don't really know, because I had in my head that whole Hollywood
Yeah,
version.
totally.
And so we decided we want it to feel good for anybody who walks in, moms, parents with small children. So thank you, by the way, for coming and hanging out with us. That's awesome, and we really appreciate it. And one of the other things that I think we really tried to differentiate ourselves with is making sure that, we have tons of Google reviews, tons of good Google reviews. So we really tried to make it very, very different and make it approachable for anybody.
Can you share like any particularly memorable, rewarding experiences since you've been in the business?
We have a lot of customers that I really, really love and adore, but I have one particular customer who I'm not going to call by name, but he is fabulous. We loan anything and everything he brings. We'll give him a loan on it because he needs our help, and he will come back and get it. And he is just a light every time he walks in, and so he's like a little daily vitamin B shot when you see him. He's just such a pleasure to hang out with and spend time with. So
That's
he's
awesome.
just all the time.
Yeah, I think that when I spent time in the stores, we had obviously a lot of returning customers is more frequently than new customers walking in the door. And some people just have that like presence that's like so magnetic, and they come in, and those are special people to help.
Yeah, he truly, truly is. I'll be sad. He's a little older, so I'll be sad when he's no longer with us. Really sad.
Yeah. Talk to me about your leadership style. You mentioned, hiring and recruiting. I guess probably even retaining all of those qualities of people that you look for is really challenging. Obviously, we're in a pretty different business, but same challenges as far as hiring and retaining people that you want. We always say that our employees are first, because if you have great employees, then you can serve your customers really well. And there's a lot that goes into that from like a leadership standpoint. So how would you describe your leadership style?
It's a little chaotic, but I do have a vivid vision that I use, and I go back to that regularly. And I also look at my vision, mission, and values regularly. And if we're straying from that, I know to pull it back or rein it in a little bit. And so while it's a little bit chaotic, everybody knows if it's not matching what the vision is, we need to move back to that. I like to really say that we're the Cheers, if you remember the old show.
Yeah.
Cheers. So we should know your name when you walk in. The Cheers, the Disney, the Nordstrom, and the Chick-fil-A of pawn shops. That's how we want people to feel when they walk in. We want to know their name, and we want to understand who they are. We want to connect with their story. We want to come around the counter and be part of their lives. And that's really what I try and do as a leader, my very best as a leader with the people that we actually lead. And I want to give them the autonomy to actually do that themselves, to connect with their own team. So we have managers in different stores, and I want them to connect with their own team in that way as well. So we call it the Cat Pawn family, and I want you to be part of that family as your work family, and to enjoy doing what you do, because it is fun, and you do get to help people every single day.
Those are really aspirational companies to like love. And I think that those are good North Stars. Like I think about some of my favorite companies and companies that I've really like used as inspiration in creating our mission and our culture and our core values. And they're similar companies, although none of those are on my list, but they all could be. And people can really identify with those. I've never really, in onboarding new people, I'm never like, oh, these are the 4 companies that like are very aspirational. But I really like that because people can like instantly, I think, relate to that more than they can relate to our mission is to, you know, XYZ. It's easier to see it sometimes in other companies.
It was for me, and that's why we sort of, once we knew that we had to tone down the chaos,
Yeah.
once we knew that, that's why I started moving toward having some guidelines that align with some of the other, like you said, other businesses that are kind of North Stars. And there are lots out there.
Yeah, there's plenty to choose from. Any like fun things you do with your teams, like to foster that positive and productive work environment?
We do that kind of daily with all kinds of things that we do throughout the day, high fives and silly little things like that. But we did just finish our family barbecue this last Sunday, and it was super, super fun. Everybody showed up and they got a little glass of sparkling water, and they all left with sweatshirts that have a Capital Pond Rockstar logo on the sleeve. And we played games and we ate baked potatoes, which was awesome. It's like a local thing. And that was really, really fun. And that kind of will carry over for a couple of months. So we try and do things like that regularly. That just happens to be one big one that we do.
I love that.
Rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, we're remote everywhere, so we're kind of like from coast to coast, and we've got a big team in Jamaica. It's really hard to do like team things. I just got back from 3 days in Tahoe with my executive team. 2 months ago, we flew our developers out and did like a developers offsite. And so we end up having to fly everybody into one location, and we try to pick somewhere, but getting to spend time together in real life, because we're all remote, we all just work behind computer screens. And it carries each team a few months of like feeling really collaborative and like, I don't know, the good vibes last a while.
Right. There's something about seeing someone face to face versus just on a screen. And that's cool that you do that.
We just did this at Harvard and in YPO, which is like this organization. You do this, it's called a leadership journey, or it's called Lifelines in YPO. But you basically have, this was for our exec team, but everybody walked through their leadership journey basically from the time that you were born. So key events and challenges and things that have happened to you, or people that saw something in you that kind of like changed your trajectory. And it was like it's supposed to be a 10-minute thing. We got to offsite and it was like every person was 25 minutes, and there were tears and like just this like people aspect of knowing who you're working alongside and what challenges and what they've gone through and how they got to where they were. It's, I don't know, I feel like I'm still on the offsite train right now, and just like so grateful for the people that work for us.
That sounds really powerful and motivating.
Yes.
That's really cool.
It really was.
And it also sounds very like personal and almost hard.
Yeah.
A little bit hard.
Yeah. I mean, like Mike and Kelly, who are our co-founders, I've been working with for 14 years. And within the first, and I've known them since I was a child. Like Mike always tells this joke that when I was like 5, I used to come into his office and write on his whiteboard and tell him what to do. And he's always like, not much has changed, Tally. And so like I've known him for my whole life since 1991. And I was born in 88, so like literally forever. And within the first 30 seconds of doing this, I learned something new about every single person, whether I've known them my whole life or whether, you know, we just onboarded a new team member that came, I've known him 3 months. And like just immediately knowing something that I've never known about people.
That's saying something, wow, especially about somebody you've known your whole life. That's super cool.
I know. Yeah, like in a work context, you never really ask about people's parents or like what their life was like growing up, or why they decided to go to this school or that school, or I don't know, just really cool stuff.
Yeah, it helps you gives you insight to who your team is. So
Yeah.
I applaud you for doing that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about getting involved in your pond communities and associations. You're currently the president of the Oregon Association. I think you're on NPA too.
Yep,
So
I'm
you
on the
spend
board
a
of
lot of
directors.
time giving back to associations and figuring out how to probably get more membership and I don't know, legislate and all of that stuff. So how did you get involved in that, and why do you think it's so important?
I think it's critical because it's like having, people say this all the time, it's like having insurance for your business. When you're in the know, you have power. So you need to know these things and what's coming down the pike. And if you're not involved in these things, it's hard to understand what's happening in the legislative arena, and it's really hard to understand what's happening nationally, and it's crazily even hard to understand what's happening not only locally but in your state. So you need to be part of the association so you have that knowledge, so you can act on the knowledge or not, depending on what you need to do. I got involved actually at the very beginning of our journey. I was like, I don't know what to do. What is this pawn thing? And I was just clicking everywhere, all over the web, trying to figure it out. And they had nothing for Oregon at the time that was online, really. And I did stumble across the National Pawnbrokers Association. And so I contacted everybody there and said, help me. I don't know what I'm doing. Although it was a super fun journey, and we've enjoyed almost every moment of it. There are a few times that were rough, but so they really, the people on the team there at that time really brought me in and just said, these are the things that we can help you with, and then we can't help you with this. We're going to set you up with a mentor who happened to be Carrie Rainey, who's a great
Wonderful
person.
mentor.
Yeah, a fabulous mentor. So the mentorship program was fabulous for me, and then I went ahead and paid that forward and started mentoring someone else, and decided to get involved at Oregon's level. When I finally figured out who they were, I just started contacting other pawn shops and asking. And so at that time, they had a pretty solid association, but when I came on board as a secretary, we decided we needed to go ahead and get a website. And finally, by the time I became president, we got a website, and that was very helpful. So I am president of OPA and on the board of directors at NPA, National Pawnbrokers Association. I love both associations, and this is part of who I am, is just helping garner more members. I think it's super powerful to be in a room together with people who believe the same thing.
Yeah.
And when you go forward in a legislative arena, no matter if it's state or even local, it's really powerful to speak the same verbiage at the same time, at the same volume.
Yes.
So
Totally. I guess, like Carrie, you've decided to open lots of pawn shops. How was that decision to go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3? Does it get harder? Does it get easier?
that is such a great question. When Adam first started, he said, I want to have 5 pawn shops at some point. And so we started in 2011. By 2014, we had our second one. By 2016, this is such an odd story, Oregon had legalized marijuana, and so everybody was looking for a building in which to sell marijuana. And so we sold our building and used that money to buy our current building that we're in now. So we closed our second shop, moved everybody back to the current shop, and then kind of just, I don't know, piddled around.
Yeah.
We just really couldn't get great leadership, and though we had some great salesmen and some great pawnbrokers, we struggled to get leadership that was solid enough to move to working on our business, not in our business. And in 2018, actually someone stumbled upon us. She came to us, and we realized this is the person, our GM currently, this is the person that's going to help us grow and develop. And so in 2020, lots of people were retiring in Oregon, and so we were getting lots of phone calls. So we opened, that was in 2019. So in end of 2019, we bought out a shop in Albany and McMinnville. And then the day that the governor shut down Oregon because of COVID, we opened one from scratch in Beaverton, which is they're all kind of spread apart. And then by the end of 2020, we opened our 5th one because we bought it out from the oldest licensed pawn shop in Oregon, which was, he's such an incredible gentleman, and he remembers like riding the bus into downtown Portland by himself at like 9 to go work at the pawn shop. So there's a lot of history there and we felt pretty honored that he had reached out to us to see if we would be interested in purchasing. So we went from one pawn shop in 2019 to that was the very end of 2019 to the 5 by the very beginning of 2021. It was a 12-month period. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But we had people in place where we could finally.
I think growing up, my dad always said like 1 to 2 is just as hard. Like opening your second is just as hard as opening your first, because it's all about the people, and because you can't be in 2 places at once, like there's a huge piece of like control, and that you're like, you're trusting somebody else to, like you said, work on your business and not just in your business. So yeah, I can see how going to 2 and then like kind of going back to 1 and then regrouping. I know you weren't piddling around. I'm sure you guys had a lot going on, but you kind of like, you need the person. It's like, I always tell my exec team, like as soon as we find somebody new for a role, we just opened up a head of product and engineering role, which we've never had before. And it's like, we decided 3 years ago that we needed this role. And then we recruited, we got all the way through the recruiting process. We had our final candidates, and it's just like, this isn't it. Like, none of these people are it. So we started over. So from the time we decided to like, when the time we actually hired Paul, it was like almost 3 years. I'm always like, it's the magic puzzle piece. And once you're like fit in, you cannot leave. Like you must stay here. Like we need your piece in here. But the timing and like when people come to you kind of really can change the course of your business. So it's worth waiting, I think, for the right person, because the wrong person is, how that goes.
It is definitely timing, and we have some incredible managers in every store now. And in 2023, we opened a luxury location and have an incredible manager in there who is actually working on doing some things with Ronald McDonald House. So we're really, really excited about that. The luxury exchange is totally connected to the pawn shop and completely different. So there's separate entries. You can't tell that it's the same thing. And it has definitely busted wide, and it was all about timing, busted wide the stereotype of a pawn shop, because people don't even understand that it's part of the pawn shop.
Right. So what kind of goods do you sell in the luxury business?
That one is only handbags, very few clothing items, estate jewelry or estate-like jewelry, and accessories and watches, so high-end watches. And that's all we sell in there.
What was it like opening that compared to your other stores? Similar, kind of rinse and repeat, or?
It was a little bit of rinse repeat. It's because you don't have to hire pawnbrokers. It's a little bit easier, honestly, because pawnbrokers are those jack of all trades. They can do everything and anything, and they need to kind of have this knowledge base that someone who's into luxury, they're just excited about luxury. And so it's just kind of thrilling to be able to hire somebody who's excited about just one thing.
Yeah,
so
retail is just like a little bit more simple to bring people on board for.
Yeah, and you have to remember too, like, even though there's maybe more product in there of a higher price point, it's a lot less product. So that makes it a little more simple too for showcases and for flooring and pretty much everything, actually.
Yeah.
You're not worried about gas and grease and oil.
And like, you really only have to be good at talking about a few things and not everything.
Right, and she's fabulous, so we're really blessed with that. But of course, now we're looking for additional people.
Always. That part never ends.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. I think I have one more question for you, and I always end this way. And you and I have talked about this a lot, which is somebody that's new coming over to Bravo. Maybe they just signed up or they're not yet over yet. What would be your advice to somebody that's switching?
Well, I switched a long time ago, in 2013 maybe, or 2014. Yeah. I can't remember. Was it 2013?
I think it was 2013.
Okay, I thought it was about 2 years after we started. So it's been a long time since I've swapped over, but at the time my big thing was just be ready. It's going to be rocky. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult because you're not used to this, and it's a learning curve. I think that curve has been flattened out a little bit now. I'm thinking.
It's still hard. It's still a really big change for something that runs your business. So, and Bravo is a bigger product than it was in 2013. So, like onboarding onto it, although I think we've made a lot of improvements in like ease of use and like getting on, there's so many things after you're on now that you've rolled out like slowly over the past however many years, 10. But now people like they come on, they want to add E44 and Mobile Pawn and Buy It and company brand like all at once. So it's like, it's really intense for somebody new that's coming over.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. So yes, be ready for the rocky road and know that you can reach out over and over again.
Yeah.
And also know that once the rocky part of it is over, it will be so much better because, like you said, Bravo is so robust. There are so many things that you can do with it that even as an owner, sometimes I learn, or I'm walking past one of my team members and I look at what they're doing and say, hey, can you show me how you're doing that? They show me, and then I say, have you thought about doing it this way? And they learn something new because they didn't have any idea they could do it in this particular way.
Right.
So it's a learning tool. I mean, it's a tool that you constantly are learning.
Yeah. I'm in there all the time and learn new things. And I was part of like the prototype drawings on a piece of paper and like every release that comes out. But there's stuff that, we're always like, sometimes we read a customer suggestion, we're like, did we do that already? I think we do that already.
Yeah.
Who knows? Everybody's like, I think we did that. I think we did that like 4 years ago. And then we go test it and it's like, we do that. Or like, oh, we must not do that. So it's like, there's just so much in it. And yeah, on the Facebook group, I'm trying to like start to drip in like, did you know? Or like, in case you missed it, because a lot of times and at trade shows, the thing that's like, it's sort of crushing is when somebody's like, why don't you do this? And I'm like, we do. And they're like, when? I'm like, we did that 2.5 years ago. And I was like, we missed it. We missed each other on that one. Which is nice that they can add it now, but it's frustrating that it's been around and nobody got to use it, or a particular person didn't know that we had it.
I think, like you said, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And so you don't recognize that something has happened because you're busy running your counter.
Yeah.
So you have to actually read and then try the things, which
Yeah.
I don't do either. So
I know. We have like a million software that we use to run Bravo, and it's like keeping up with the release notes and stuff like that. It's a lot when you're busy doing other things.
definitely. And I also believe, as a new person to Bravo, one of the things that I think is really powerful about Bravo is that it changes the course of your business, not just for the better, but I mean, it is for the better, but because it does so much, you can spend time working on your business, giving back to the community, doing the things that are important to you in order to grow your business, because this platform makes things so much smoother and easier once you've gotten over the bumpy part. I promise it gets better.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Tally. I appreciate you.
All right, have a good day.
Thank you, you too.